Hello everyone and welcome to the 19th episode of the Corny universe. In the last episode, we explored the mystery of existence and found out that within existence, nothing and everything coexist together. But how do you go from a state of pure existence where everything exists at the same time to the experience of a tiny fraction of existence? How do you transition out of infinity into finiteness? The greatest mystery of all is consciousness and self-awareness. Imagine a being who is conscious of being pure existence of everything, conscious of its infinite nature, all-powerful, all-knowing, since all power and knowledge is within such a being. Such a being could only ask one single question, which is at the root of this reality and all other realities. What would I be if I weren't that which I am? Let me repeat that because it is the most important question you will ever hear. What would I be if I weren't that which I am? In other words, this infinite consciousness asks itself, what would it be like to be that which it is not? Or in other words, a finite consciousness. And so this simple question is the spark at the root of all creation. The entire energy of the universe is thus manifested by this simple question, and the amount of energy available depends on a single variable, the intensity of intention or focus on this simple question by this pure, infinite consciousness. You see, ultimately, your entire universe is just an exchange of focused attention, which you model as an exchange of energy. For instance, when two atoms interact, you will say, through your materialist science filter, that there is an exchange of energy which impacts the atoms' respective states. In reality, there is an exchange of focused attention, every part of this universe having its own way of paying attention to all that is around it, and by doing so, exchanges energy with it. This limited bubble of reality is maintained thanks to a permanent mutual exchange of the initial focused attention which all elements share with all other elements in a self-contained system. For instance, you observe your friend observes a dog, the dog observes a flower, the flower observes a bee, the bee observes you. Everything observes or pays attention to everything else, and thus cements your material reality. Now, let's go back to this initial question. The problem is that this question does not solve perfect symmetry, which, as we have seen in the previous video, simply means that for everything that exists, its opposite also exists. How do you prevent two vibrations of opposite phase from canceling each other out? If this problem is not solved, then experience would only happen for a split second before reverting back to nothingness. And the solution is quite obvious. As we have seen in the 17th episode on free will, the very first thing to emerge out of this question, what would I be if I weren't that which I am, is life. Life is just that, perpetual change. As you sit there watching this video, you are imbued with life, and every single second you are under the effect of this question. What would I be if I weren't that which I am? Every single second, you are no longer what you just were a second ago. Every single second, you are someone new. Life is essentially a feedback loop between experience and existence, designed to continuously answer this single question, what would I be if I weren't that which I am? But in order to answer such a question continuously, you need to develop all kinds of strategies, rules, laws, or else experience would reach a dead end. And so, the self-organizing nature of the universe comes from life and the initial question at the root of creation. In order to experience perpetual change, you need to create a stable framework for experiencing this change without reaching a dead end or getting lost in infinity, or revert back to perfect symmetry, at which point the experience would end. A perfect mix between chaos and order. Life is essentially messy enough to create an interference pattern to break out of perfect symmetry, yet orderly enough to allow for a stable and coherent experience. A perfect imperfection. Let's look at some illustrations to make sure you grasp how this works. Every single structure in the universe reflects life's strategy of avoiding perfect symmetry while making experience possible. Within existence, zero or nothing, and infinity or everything are bound together inextricably. Life is what manages to separate the two. Then, zero scales up towards infinity, while infinity has to scale down towards nothingness. In essence, instead of an instantaneous oscillation between zero and infinity, life simply adds extra steps in between. Stepping up from nothingness, you first have vibrations, and stepping down from infinity, you have a multiverse. At this stage, reality is a living multiverse which interacts with itself. As we have seen in the very first episode, every structure tries to reach harmony with the parts it creates. Thus, vibrations seek to interact in harmony with each other. The form that this takes is quite simply music. The only way to make vibrations interact in harmony with each other is to create a ratio between their frequency which doubles at every octave. If you want to know more about this, check out the crystal spiral, link in the description. But reaching harmony is a dangerous time for the universe because perfect symmetry comes back to bite. Now that you no longer create interference via life's chaotic potential and you reach a certain order, the universe might revert back to oscillating between nothing and everything. At this point, you have to create a new form which will serve as a more powerful interference to break perfect symmetry again. And so the photon is born. A photon is actually the very first black hole, or in essence, a torus-shaped form which wraps vibrations around it to prevent perfect symmetry. And so now, stepping up from vibrations or sound, you have the photon, or light. Stepping down from the metaverse, you have the universe, which is essentially a self-contained pocket of light. As it is said in the Bible, first came the word, or sound, in Buddhism, the Om sound, then came light. Again, the same process repeats. Perfect symmetry returns through photons, matter and antimatter, photon and antiphoton. Photons reach harmony by forming quarks, and so stepping up from the photon you have the quarks, stepping down from the universe you have galactic clusters, or clusters of light. Then, stepping up from quarks, you have subparticles. Stepping down from galactic clusters, you have galaxies. Stepping up from subparticles, you have atoms. Stepping down from galaxies, you have solar systems. Stepping up from atoms, you have molecules. Stepping down from solar systems, you have planets. And right in the center of it all, you have life in the form of a living cell. And so the next time a mathematician asks you what is at the center between 0 and infinity, you can tell him, it's life. Life is at the center of it all. Now, if you've paid attention, you will find that there are 12 structures or forms that are the fundamental building blocks of your reality, going from the infinitely small to the infinitely big. That number is of utmost importance. Since the underlying framework behind your reality is vibrations, your reality will reflect that in many ways. For instance, via the existence of cycles, or the number 12, which is the number of musical notes before you reach the octave. In the next episode, we will go deeper in deconstructing the reality you live in and how the universe evolves. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so Corny can keep blowing your mind. Bye.